The dog guarded the crib all night, until they saw why. A golden retriever refused to leave a baby's bedside. The parents were annoyed. Then they understood, and nothing was ever the same again. It was 3 a.m. when Sarah heard it, not a cry, not a whimper, but something far more unsettling. Silence. And then, beneath it, a sound she couldn't immediately name. A low, steady, almost inaudible whine coming from down the hall. She nudged her husband. "Ranger is doing it again," she whispered. They had gone to bed hoping the dog would just relax. He had not relaxed. He had not moved from the nursery doorway in 4 straight hours. For most parents, a dog standing guard outside a baby's crib might seem sweet, endearing, even. For Sarah and Jake Merritt, it had become something they'd started to resent. Their golden retriever, Ranger, had transformed the moment their daughter Lily came home from the hospital 3 weeks earlier. The gentle, easygoing dog they'd raised for 4 years had become a shadow, a sentinel, a creature obsessed with a 6-pound baby he barely knew. That night, they would finally understand why. A dog changed, overnight. Ranger had always been the kind of dog people described as almost human. He greeted visitors at the door, learned the sound of Jake's truck from 2 blocks away, and had the uncanny ability to sense a bad mood before anyone said a word. The Merritts had adopted him as a puppy from a local shelter in Austin, Texas, and he had grown into a 75-pound bundle of warmth, golden fur, and unrelenting loyalty. When Sarah became pregnant, Ranger had been curious in the way dogs are, sniffing the ultrasound photos, resting his head on her growing belly, occasionally tilting his head at the sounds coming from her abdomen. They'd done all the things the articles told them to. Brought a blanket home from the hospital with Lily's scent on it, introduced them slowly, let Ranger investigate on his terms. The introduction itself had been unremarkable. Ranger sniffed Lily's feet. He wagged his tail twice, slowly, the way he did when he was thinking. He walked away. Jake and Sarah exhaled. Good dog. Normal dog. Calm dog. That lasted approximately 6 hours. By the end of Lily's first night home, Ranger had positioned himself at the entrance to the nursery and refused to budge. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't anxious. He was simply present, watchful, like a soldier assigned to a post he would not abandon under any circumstances. He wasn't guarding us from her. He was guarding her from dogs' alert owners to hidden medical issues. In the first week, Sarah and Jake assumed it was adjustment. New smell, new sounds, the chaos of a newborn naturally pulling the household's attention. By week 2, they wondered if Ranger was feeling left out, anxious, perhaps, about his place in the family. They made extra time for him. Longer walks, his favorite treats, belly scratches before bed, none of it changed a thing. Every single night, Ranger lay in the doorway of Lily's room, still as stone, eyes fixed on the crib, breathing slow and deliberate. Not sleeping, watching. Does your dog seem to know something you don't? Stories like this are more common than most people realize. Dogs sense things, temperature shifts, changes in breathing, chemical signals invisible to us. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to read it today. Share this story, the night everything changed. By week 3, frustration had replaced curiosity. Sarah was running on broken sleep and fraying nerves. Jake had gone back to work. The pediatrician had said Lily was perfectly healthy, small, yes, born a little early at 36 weeks, but eating well, gaining weight, no concerns. And yet every night, this dog, this beautiful, infuriating dog, planted himself at the crib and would not leave. On the night of October 14th, Sarah had finally had enough. She'd gotten up at midnight to feed Lily, then again at 2 a.m., and now here she was at 3:47 in the morning, standing in the hallway, staring at a dog who stared back at her with dark, steady eyes. She put her hands on her hips. She whispered through clenched teeth, "Ranger. Bed. Now." He didn't move. He looked at her, then back at the crib, then at her again. His nostrils flared in that particular way they did when he was processing something important. He let out that sound, the one that had woken her, that low soft whine that carried no urgency, only information. She stepped into the room. Lily was asleep, perfectly still. bundled in her sleep sack, her chest rising and falling with the shallow, rapid rhythm of a newborn at rest. Sarah stood there for a long moment, watching her daughter breathe, and felt a wave of exhaustion crash over her. She turned back to Ranger. "She's fine," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "She's fine. You can come to bed." That was when she noticed. Not something dramatic. Not something she would ever have caught from the doorway. She'd had to take 3 steps into the room, following the dog's gaze, squinting in the dim glow of the nightlight. And then she saw it. Lily's face was pale. Not her usual peachy, slightly flushed newborn color, pale. Grayish, almost. And her lips? Were they just slightly blue? Sarah's heart seized. She crossed the room in 2 steps and pressed her palm to her daughter's chest. Lily's heart was beating. She was breathing. But something was wrong. Something was deeply, unmistakably wrong. What Ranger already knew. They called 911. The paramedics arrived in 11 minutes. By then, Ranger had moved, for the first time in hours, to sit directly beside Sarah, pressing his body against her legs while she held Lily and paced. The paramedics assessed Lily quickly, their faces careful and professional in that way that tells a parent everything. They placed a pulse oximeter on her tiny finger. The reading came back, 84%. Normal for a newborn was above 95%. Lily was taken to the NICU by ambulance that night. The diagnosis, delivered the following morning by a neonatologist with kind eyes and a tired voice, was a congenital heart condition, a small but significant abnormality in her heart structure that had not been detected during prenatal screening. It was the kind of thing, the doctor explained carefully, that could remain invisible for weeks, and then deteriorate rapidly, especially at night when the body is at rest and compensating less. She would need surgery. She would recover. She would be absolutely fine. Jake sat down in the hospital hallway and couldn't speak for a long time. Ranger had been detecting the subtle drop in her blood oxygen, a change no human could see, but a dog could smell, in the altered chemistry of her skin. Later, a veterinary behaviorist the Merritts consulted would explain what had likely been happening those 3 weeks. Dogs can detect changes in blood chemistry through scent. Specifically, they can sense fluctuations in oxygen levels through the altered volatile organic compounds released through the skin and breath. It is the same mechanism that allows trained service dogs to alert diabetics to blood sugar crashes, or signal the onset of a seizure before it begins. Ranger had been detecting the subtle, nightly drop in Lily's blood oxygen. A change no human could see, but a dog, with a nose that contains 300 million olfactory receptors compared to our 6 million, could smell it in the altered chemistry of her breath, her skin, the air around her crib. He hadn't been anxious. He hadn't been jealous. He hadn't been acting out or seeking attention or suffering some canine existential crisis about his place in the family. He had been on duty. Every single night, Ranger had been doing exactly what he was born to do. Pay attention to the people he loved. Coming home, Lily spent 18 days in the NICU. She had open heart surgery at 22 days old, performed by a surgical team whose skill and steadiness Sarah would describe, for the rest of her life, as a miracle. The scar on Lily's chest is small. It will fade over years but never disappear entirely. Her parents have already decided they won't hide it from her. They'll tell her it's her story. They'll tell her about the night she came home from the hospital, and about the dog who would not leave her door. On the day Lily came home from the NICU, truly home, healthy and pink and loud in the way only a fully oxygenated, furiously hungry baby can be, Ranger was waiting at the front door. Sarah carried Lily in her car seat to the living room floor and unstrapped her. Ranger approached slowly, with enormous care, and lowered his nose to Lily's chest. He stayed there for a long moment, still and quiet, reading whatever story her body was telling him now. Then his tail moved, not the slow, thinking wag from before. Fast, wide, a full-body wag that swept his entire rear end. He looked up at Sarah. She was already crying. He lay down beside the car seat. He did not go back to the nursery doorway that night. He slept by the bed instead. There are things we cannot know about the inner lives of animals. What they experience, what they understand, what a dog feels when he lies in a doorway night after night protecting something he cannot fully comprehend. We don't know what Ranger knew. We don't know if he was afraid, or resolved, or simply following some ancient imperative written into his DNA over thousands of years of living alongside humans. We don't know if dogs love the way we love. But on October 14th, at 3:47 in the morning, a golden retriever in Austin, Texas, looked up at a sleep-deprived mother with dark, steady eyes and refused to move from his post. And a little girl named Lily is alive today.